and welcome back to the Part-Time Otaku Podcast. My name is Dave.
My name's Grant.
And we're going to cover Attack on Titan, Season 4, Episode 13 today. If it's your first time here, welcome. We are anime-only watchers. We're going to do a quick recap of the episode, then we're going to break it down beat by beat, give you some of our favorite moments, theories, etc. Before we start, I want to give a quick shout-out to Reddit user Krtne. I'm saying that phonetically. I'm not sure if there's, anything, a special way to say it, but it's KRTNEHHH. We'll at you or, whatever in the social stuff we put out. Thank you so much for the Levi thumbnail, office-themed Levi thumbnail.
Dave, you sent this to me, and, I burst out laughing. We were semi in public, and just couldn't help myself.
Grant, I didn't even tell you. He posted this, and the caption on the Reddit post was POV, your Zeke.
I love it.
That got me pretty good.
That's awesome.
So yeah, shout out. I love the art style on this one. I love how cool it looks, and I think it'll make a pretty cool thumbnail. So shouts out. We appreciate you.
Big time. Love it.
Okay, without further ado, we'll jump right in. So here's how Season 4, Episode 13 went. I'll kick us off here. Zeke explains to Levi that he used a mixture of gas and his spinal fluid to transform the villagers of Ragako several years ago.
Nicolo treats the Browse family at the restaurant where he works. Gabby and Falco make contact with Nicolo, but are attacked by him once he realizes it was Gabby that killed Sasha. Falco is injured, attempting to protect Gabby. Nicolo is then subdued by the scouts and explains he believes the wine is tainted by Zeke's spinal fluid. The Jaegers arrive and take everyone hostage. Aaron arrives with a bloody hand and says he'd like to talk to Armin and Mikasa.
Boom.
Dave, this is... I'm just going to get right down to it. This is going to go... I think how I texted you was... This is going to best of the season. Mm-hmm. Top 3 of the whole series. This episode.
Yeah, that's a bold claim, sir.
This is a no fat... Mm-hmm. Through the entire episode. This is, it's perfect transition from scene to scene. Everything is clear and concise. Points are very high tension. Incredibly high tension. But just what a tremendous episode.
I don't disagree, man. The pacing was on point. Animation was on point. Story beats, character stuff that we're going to get to. Really paid off a lot of stuff that we've been building to. Not to mention, sets up a ton as well. Pays off a couple theories.
Mm-hmm. Big ones.
Crucial.
Big brain Dave.
Big brain Dave. You may call me Nostradamus going forward. But no, man, it's fucking killer. I agree is that it's definitely one of the best of the season. I frankly can't remember. It's hard to rank episodes for the series for me. Maybe we'll have to do that in a wrap up of the whole show or something.
Yeah, but, a good retrospective.
Yeah, but anyway, up there. Fucking huge episode. I think that maybe there have only been a couple episodes in the entirety of the show where I've been near emotional.
Yeah.
And this was one of them.
Big time. Yeah.
Yeah, so maybe, before we get to the meat and potatoes, we should start with how the episode starts. So,
and that is right to the meat and potato. That's the thing. That's the thing about this episode, Dave, is there's no... I think we had talked last week, I wasn't hard on last week's episode, but the week prior to that, we had both loved so much. And that was such a big emotional build, and it's crazy the payoff we have from that moment. In this, with everything, it's... this episode, all the stuff they've been kind of sprinkling along, since we've been back in parody, is kind of in this moment. You know what I mean? This is kind of how everything leading up to the Marley moment. This is, this is the new flashpoint of the season of the next portion of the season. But yeah, just the second I saw the calm and the quiet of the family.
Yeah. And
in the village. And, the hat blows off and, and then the gas. And, did you immediately know what we were seeing? The second that the gas showed up?
Yes and no. It was almost a very brief misdirect for me where I saw, the gas and the steam. And I figured that meant Titans were already there. I didn't realize that, gas was literally being pumped into it. So that was interesting.
Yeah.
But I did realize, like, oh, this is probably, we're probably being shown what happened at Connie's village all those years ago.
Mm-hmm.
So, we at least know now, I mean, a couple things, like, obviously Zeke is able to shout Titans alive.
Yeah.
We knew that before, but it does sound like there's a bit of a prerequisite, whether it's spinal fluid ingested somehow or this mixture. It's not like you can't just yell at any Eldian and make them pop.
No, there has to be some like spinal fluid of some sort, and I wonder if it has to be his specifically.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I don't.
Maybe he has power over. Maybe it's like because I thought about that too. Maybe it's just a power over his own. I guess
an interesting
biology.
Oh, maybe that's why he's able to control them specifically?
Yeah, because there is... I don't want to jump ahead because I really want to go like beat by beat in this episode, but there is a reference later of like historically they make mention that his spinal fluid was used as a weapon.
Yeah,
so
they do.
So I'm wondering if maybe that's just how... Maybe that's like with the difference between Aaron and him. Like Aaron is the founding Titan and he has kind of like all imposing power.
Yeah.
Whereas like Zeke only has control over like what comes from him. So
interesting. That would make a lot of sense though, right? Because they back in season 3, he was able to control those Titans in Titan form and in human form, but they were all Titans from that village. Right?
Exactly.
Like after his fight with Levi, he ordered them to go attack Levi and they all still did, but presumably they probably were all made the same way.
From this village.
Yeah.
Or in other places. But
I'm actually referring to, if you remember, it's like a really cool scene, but it's very specific. It's right before the Beast Titan starts throwing pitches at the wall.
Okay.
Everyone is saying like, oh, we got to draw them out. And then we see like 100 lightning bolts come down. And that, do you remember? Like, and it's all those Titans transforming at the same time.
Yeah, they think it's just him. And then
I'm assuming he must have had more people gassed in reserve or something that he waited to transform.
Well, here's the other really interesting thing. I had no idea there were other Marleyan soldiers on the island at that time.
Yeah, I totally agree. I've been thinking about this a bit, and I realized, like, okay, my guess is, like, the female Titan, Reiner, Berthold, and Annie were gone for so long that Marley was probably like, what the fuck's going on?
Yeah.
Should we send in some reinforcements? And they clearly sent in a couple. They sent Zeke and Piek. And maybe apparently also some military support. So that's or not. Maybe Zeke's lying about that part. I don't know. But yeah. So clearly Marley sent some reinforcements.
It's just like the visually, like the scene was so terrifying. It's the contrast of it was such a quiet scene. It goes from like the quiet of the village and people kind of going about their day, like very simple life, to like the only other noise is you hear kind of like the people more or less gagging and like they're just like paralyzed.
Yeah, the use of silence. It's kind of a scary way to go.
And then like it slowly ramps up and like there's like a bit of a musical cue and then it just cuts to like Zeke and the troops in like these gas masks and I was like, this guy is so evil. Like I don't like this guy.
And I'm very interested in this next part, right? So it's Levi and he's Levi is the one getting him to rehash all this because apparently the scouts are already aware, but he says, yeah, but you told us this, but you still don't have any remorse. But doesn't shock me at all. But what I'm more interested in is Zeke says, he's like, I had to do it. Otherwise I wouldn't have been able to bring hope to Eldia. Like, is he insinuating that he had already switched sides at this point?
I think he's just trying to manipulate the narrative of what is known because again, there's another reference in the episode where they've shown that Zeke has a narrative that has been administered to us and the cast, and I don't think that's necessarily the case anymore. It's just like it's just the visual cues, like jumping a little ahead, like Zeke or Levi gets word about the situation with Zachary, and it's just the cut to his eyes, like and then obviously like to the OP, but absolute manipulator, and has been guiding this whole thing along from the very beginning. I don't think this whole Eldia thing. I think it's just a power grab.
You think he's on his own side?
I think he's on his own side, and I think that he thinks that Aaron is on his side too, and he might be in, or he's not. Like we don't really know where that's going. Doesn't look great.
Yeah.
But no, but the other really, and I legitimately believe that Levi should be getting, if we had like an MVP award for every episode, it should be going to Levi because he has some unreal moments this episode.
Yeah, I agree.
And like leading up to that, Zeke asks Levi, he's like, why do you keep asking me this? I've told you this multiple times. I think he says you've asked me this a couple of times and I've told you. And kind of like to what you said, Levi's like, I'm not letting you off the hook. Like, you have no remorse. And it's not that village. It had a name. It's Ragako, like it was, like it's.
You can tell Levi smells something. I just hope it's not too late. I don't know.
I think it might be. Not saying it's definitively the end for Levi, but I think they've completely lost control of the situation. Like,
definitely,
the wheels are off the road.
Not yet, though. We're not at that part yet. So, Zeke and Levi, before this scene moves on, they do both agree, though, that they're running out of time and they need to test the rumbling soon.
I think that was more a reference of Levi saying, no, I agree, we are out of time.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Oh, I thought you were saying that Levi agrees about the test.
Oh, yeah. Anyway. So they think, they're running out of time, but then Levi gets news. We don't know exactly what news, but then we shift perspectives and we deal with the Browse family showing up at Nicolo's restaurant. So I think, obviously, you and I knew we were clearly going to see Nicolo. Would you this scene is like the heart of the episode? Like, we're here for a very long time.
This is some of the scariest shit I've ever seen on TV. Legitimately. Actually, that was intense from the moment it gets started. And I'm gonna throw a little compliment Gabby's way. You can just tell how scared she is. Like, actually scared. They're the Browse family turns around and kind of looks to Gabby, or it's Mia and Ben in this situation, but they're like, oh, like, it's just a restaurant and da-da-da. And I think one of the other kids kind of like cracks a joke at Gabby's expense. And she just has this look
Bumpkin.
of like, calls her a bumpkin. And she just has a look of bewilderment and confusion. And then she immediately grabs onto Kaya and is like, are you sure? Like, are you sure there's like a Marley in here? Like, she's so scared. And even Falco, you can tell they're so out of their element more than they've already been. Like, they're back behind enemy lines again. They're not out in the woods. They're back in the city. It was tense from the second the doors opened.
It was, and I appreciate Kaya. Actually, this whole episode is a really good testament to how great new characters can tell a story, because Kaya, Nicolo, and Sasha's father, whose name I don't even know, are all so important to how this all goes, and we've barely seen them before. But they're all really instrumental in the whole flow of this scene. So Kaya introduces everybody. They all start eating. Kaya also voices some of what you and I were saying. She's like, I think that Nicolo and Sasha were probably in love. And then,
very big moment there.
Yeah.
Well, before that too, because Kaya tells Gabby, she's like, get your shit together. Like, soldiers eat here. And the second she said that, I was like, it's on. We didn't know what was coming. We had an idea that there'd be some interactions, but again, to this level. And then, like, as you said, the introductions are made. The cut to Falco's face after Kaya says that she thinks they were in love, Falco knows immediately.
Oh, fuck.
He knows.
He's like,
and you could tell. And he was so distracted. And they kind of try and play it off as, because I don't think there was a plan going in there. I think Gabby picked up on Falco maybe being a little distracted, not knowing what was going on, and then they kind of chalk it up to having like a sore stomach or something like that.
Yeah, I think they were just gonna like roll with it, try and isolate the Marleyan and get in touch.
Yeah, but just the transition from Falco realizing to like clearly being like trying to figure it out in his head.
Yeah,
and then him kind of coming back to, like, everyone talking to him in the food, and he dives in and he's kind of lost for a moment. I was like, it was just every moment was like, we're climbing a set of stairs and like we're gonna get pushed soon.
you could see. I mean? Yeah, I agree though. It was kind of reminiscent now that I hear you describe it that way. You could kind of see the gears turning in Falco's head, and that was kind of similar in a way to him in the basement with him and Reiner when he puts the pieces together of, oh fuck, wait, how long ago were they friends?
I hadn't thought of that until you just said that's very true. It's he's having this repeating moment.
He's young, but he's like putting shit together, and he's like, oh fuck, not this again.
Yeah.
But the scouts show up before shit hits the fan.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't see it coming. And it seems obvious now, like we're getting all these people in the same building, in the same area for a fun scene. I just thought it was like a funny. I didn't even think of it because I was like, oh, of course, like we knew that Sasha and co were gonna try and isolate a few other Marlians to see if they knew anything, right?
Yeah.
Because of last episode, and they basically say that they're like, hey, we just want to talk to you. It's not urgent. We don't want to upset you in your working conditions now that we're vulnerable.
Yeah.
But then there's the wine scene where Jean tries to get into the wine and Niccolo stops him.
And it's cool too because they had like again more little breadcrumbs to kind of connect like previous stuff. They say, oh, this is like the fabled stuff. I keep hearing about this stuff that only the higher ranking. And then Kanye, like, wow, we're pretty high up in the sky. And I'm like, you doorknob, like,
fucking idiot.
And you can tell like they're all friends and they're just fucking around. And then like just Niccolo's just change a character, like the way he like bolts for the snaps. And you can tell Jean was hurt too, because I think Jean might have considered him a friend.
Well, I think they built a rapport. If you remember, clearly Niccolo had something with Sasha, but also they find Niccolo at her grave after this, and they seem to be pretty friendly with him.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I think there was definitely something there, and it caught me off guard too. It was transparent in the moment. I was like, oh, he's clearly protecting them.
Yeah.
But God, did he have to bring race into this? I mean, I guess it's been a while since we've been reminded.
Well, when you think about it, if you are truly trying to save someone,
mm-hmm.
and if you feel like there's no room for error, I feel like you kind of take it to that next level, regardless of people's feelings in the moment.
Erase any doubt. Make sure that they don't.
Exactly.
Make sure it doesn't happen. Erase all doubt. It doesn't matter what you do in the moment.
And I think that was clearly evident, but he must have like dialed back into some old repressed memories because he went for it. It seemed genuine. I was like, I know, it's like you said, like without a doubt, he's trying to save them and he, cares for them in ways. But it was, that was tough. That was a tough hang for a moment.
Yeah, it was. Then he goes down to the wine cellar to put the wine away, and that's when Gabby and Falco make their play.
Yeah.
And they meet him down there, and this is an amazing scene.
Unreal.
One of the best of the whole episode, maybe, of all the seasons. But I think I knew, did you know, like, oh, fuck this. This is not going to go well.
I knew when they cornered him. They had... I understand they probably had to get away and try and be as, quiet and away from things as possible.
Yeah.
But just the setting of, like, he was already worked
shaken
up.
Yeah.
That whole encounter with Jean was probably a rough call. He probably had so many things running through his head. He was probably thinking of Sasha in that moment, weirdly enough,
Yeah.
And then we get, Gabby, and she just...
Couldn't read the room, huh?
Couldn't read the room and just couldn't fucking help herself. This was so typical of her.
Yep.
She makes the reveal, we're warrior candidates. And then even him, Nicolo's like, he's dumbfounded. He's like, what? Like, whoa, like, what is going on here?
What the fuck are you doing here? What happened? How'd you get here? And she just, and you see that horrified look in his eye. Did you kill anybody? And she's just too happy to spill the beans. She's like, of course I did. I'm fucking awesome.
And we're going to kill more. And then also Falco's face.
Yeah.
He has immediately put it together. And he's trying to stop her. Gabby.
Yes.
Gabby, like, oh. When Nicolo grabbed the wine bottle, I was like, oh my God.
Oh fuck.
The fact that it went where it went, I thought they were both going to get murdered in that basement. I thought that was it, and it was going to not be like a dead storyline, but it was just, we never would have found out. Like, there would have been no resolution. I kind of thought that for a second that was how they were going to play that out. Just kind of leave it unknown.
That would, to be honest, like, some people might say, oh, it doesn't give them like a great character arc, but I think, in a lot of instances, you don't need someone to become three-dimensional and to have like a cyclical, complete journey. Like, sometimes you just need to make a point.
Yeah.
And the point that they have made with Gabby has been done so effectively already. You know what I mean? Of she's very much been on, it feels like a very condensed journey, very similar to Aaron and Reiner, where they grow up learning one thing and then it's all thrown into question. And, they have a very, very deep hatred instilled in them at a very young age. But she's seeing, the other side of it way earlier than they did. And I think it's really fucking her up.
Yeah.
And, every time she learns a little bit about the world and how it's maybe not what she thought it was, it feels like she just doubles down. And yeah.
But she's also so much younger than Aaron and Reiner were when they figured those things out. They were almost men.
Oh yeah,
she is a child. Like, I think they must be 12 or 13 maybe
somewhere
at the
in
most.
there. Yeah.
But fuck, man, like.
So yeah, I'm definitely not blaming her for not having better foresight and understanding. But it just feels like they're making a point with her character, and it's a tragic point. You know what I mean? I don't think we're meant to feel great watching all this happen.
No, definitely not.
So we didn't say what happened, and what happens is she brags about killing Sasha, though she doesn't really realize the significance of that. And Niccolo loses it, goes to hit her over the head with a wine bottle, misses. Or he doesn't miss. Falco pushes her out of the way. Mm-hmm. And he takes a wine bottle to the back of the head.
Brutal.
And
they showed it too. They really like the animation on that. As grim as that sounds, it was kind of similar to when she bludgeoned. The irony is she bludgeoned a guard to death, and now Falco, probably the only person she cares about. Yeah.
For a sec there, we see the wine go in his mouth. We're not 100% sure, but
I didn't notice that at all.
I thought it was blood or wine, which maybe is an artistic choice. But I thought it was bad. And then I was like, are we gonna kill her? What's gonna happen? Where do we go from here, Niccolo? Like, what's your choice gonna be? And we see very quickly, he knocks her ass out and drags them both upstairs.
And that's the thing too. Like, he knocks her out, and you're kind of just left. Like, I think it's like a moment of black, and you're like, where's this gonna go? And it literally just cuts to him carting them past, like, knocked out in his arms. I was like, oh my god, like, we're doing it. Like, and Nico just calls out Mr. Browse.
Yep. Like,
just calls him, and like, just right to the point of like, this is the girl who killed your daughter, and was just abrupt of, it goes to hand him the knife of, if you don't do it, I will do it for you, sir.
Yep.
I would be honored. And it was just this, he was on autopilot, he was blacked out. You know what I mean? Like, he was not obviously not himself, but
you could tell in that moment we got to see where his priorities and his loyalty were.
Yes.
You know what I mean? There was no right or wrong. There was only avenging Sasha.
Yeah.
And, her dad's in the building. He clearly cares about Sasha and therefore her family. And he's, he wants to extend his, this token of revenge in case, her dad wants it. I not for a second did I think her dad would take it, but every moment of that, I was like, oh, okay, well, now we know who he is. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? He clearly, I think this guy kind of lost it for a minute.
Absolutely.
But, like, it felt like he was going through, like, the 5 stages of grief, like, in front of us. Yeah. Like, just denial, acceptance, rage.
The voice actor on this guy has got some pipes.
Yeah.
That guy was hauling into the, like, screaming.
Without it being annoying. You know what I mean?
No.
It was dramatic. It was on point. It was really good.
Emotional. It was very, it's as weird as that sounds, but, like, you could tell the grief in his voice.
Yep.
Like, he was.
I think all of them. There's so many standout voice actors in this show. The guy that voices Aaron, the guy that does Falco, who also was Tanjiro in Demon Slayer, fucking crushes.
Yeah.
Armin. Anyway.
Funny enough, the other standout in this episode was Kaya.
Yes, she was, because she has a wailing moment.
But not even the wailing moment too.
Oh, I know what you mean.
There's a couple moments. I think the moment there's the moment where she more or less tells Gabby to, like, get her shit together, and then there's the moment where she says good luck, and it just came off as, like, genuine, and that too.
When really hard to appear genuine that way.
Yeah, and it was just like a simple line, and like you can tell like it was just like an inner monologue, inner
Yeah.
dialogue
Yeah, yeah.
of like when Gabby and Falco are clearly going to find Nicolo, and it's
Yeah,
just
I remember
like,
that moment. She's
and it's
eating
just
and yeah.
yeah, it's just like a good luck, and that's when I really knew shit was gonna go south.
Yeah.
After the rewatch, like like on the second time around, and I saw that moment of like, oh, like fuck, okay, they really just set up like, okay, we're at phase 1 of things going bad, phase 2, like it just everything, it was one thing after another, this whole episode leading to this moment, obviously, and then it quickly becomes a hostage situation.
Yeah, so before it becomes a hostage situation, there's a lot that goes down between. Or no, actually, because there's 2 hostage situations in this episode.
Yeah. Oh, true.
um, but no, yeah, you're right. So I like this good exchange between Gabby and Niccolo because it reminds me of Gabby's exchange with Kaya, in which they're just yelling at each other,
Screaming at each other. Is this before Armin gets here when they're back and forth, or I think the scouts are there?
The scouts are there, but I don't think Armin has called everybody in yet.
Yeah.
They're just yelling at each other, and it's right after Nicola reveals to Sasha's parents everything that happened, and Gabby's basically saying like, yo, what are you doing? You're a Marleyan soldier. That devil woman bewitched you. She killed people that I knew. And Nicolo's like, who the fuck cares who killed first? Like, and he goes on to say like, this woman showed me something that I loved. She took me away from the war.
That's my favorite line, or one of my 2 favorite lines in this whole episode. Well, no, he says she was, or see now I feel like a dummy. I completely forgot the moment. But he essentially, his expression of she reminded me that there's more than this shitty war, I think is along the lines of what he says. And it's so genuine, and it's what I've just been saying to myself, and you and I have been saying this whole season, is like, this war is bullshit. It's just, it's ancient, it's weird ancient rivalry, like just running for the gun between all these nations, and it's like, I'm saying our world, I'm sure our world, there's a lot of similar things and all that, but it has such a microscope on like the specific type of conflict. And you can just see how genuine he was to be like away from it. Like, it's probably been 4 years of more or less bliss.
Yeah, it feels like it allowed Niccolo some focus on what may or may not matter, because he also says, I came to the island at one point. He says, I came to the island to save the world from devils.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He had no idea what he was going to find there. And, things happened the way they did, and he found Sasha, and that seems like a really fun little story. And of course it had to end the way it did.
Absolutely, yeah.
But yeah, I really appreciated Niccolo not pulling any punches, it being very clear that he's willing to kill Gabby for what happened.
Yeah.
But, the scouts arrive. That argument continues to shift.
Mm-hmm.
But eventually, Sasha's dad takes the knife.
Yeah.
And delivers, like, one of the coolest allegory monologues of the whole fucking show. Yeah. Giving meaning to the episode title, Children of the Forest. How'd you feel about that scene? About Nicolo's dad, or Sasha's dad, breaking it down?
I loved it. I will say the first time I watched it, because there's a very confusing little bit, because he makes references to 2 forests.
Yeah.
But doesn't clarify which is the bad one.
Yeah. Because they literally grew up in a forest.
Well, he said, because that's what he opens up, is like, like we grew up, he kind of more or less blames himself for the situation, not to the point where like like he deserves like lashes or whatever, like punish me kind of thing. It was, you can tell like in the moment he kind of had like some clarity and kind of like looked back on the life of raising his children, and because he makes the moment of, or he says like, we grew up in the forest, she would shoot varmints and that was our way of life, and then we brought her, and it came to a point where that it wasn't that anymore, we had to bring her out into the real world.
Yeah.
And then she went into a new forest, and like that's obviously the forest that he's talking about is the bad one. And just the line of spent too much time in the forest, bound to happen. And I was just like, word.
Yeah, like the world's kind of too big, and it just seems like he's saying she kind of got lost in it, and in all this conflict. And he also makes point. He has a couple great lines. He makes a point to say that young people need to be rescued from this. Yeah. Otherwise, it'll continue to happen. And then,
and that's
He looks at Niccolo at one point and he says, it's up to us adults to shoulder the sins of the past. You know, that's one of the, again,
unreal,
stinging fucking dialogue throughout this show. But, you know, I really appreciated that.
That was us. That was the fans in that moment. You know?
And that line has so much relevance because in this moment, he's being given the knife. He's being given the power to either decide to continue down this path, slit this kid's throat, and let the blows just continue to roll, or like maybe take a beat, try and sense what's going on, appreciate the greater context, and not just continue to kill people in cold blood. Yeah. And he makes that point, and he says, it's up to us adults to make these kinds of decisions. And then seconds later, we totally forget about Kaya. And she's not a grown-up. She doesn't understand what's happening. All she knows is that now she has a face. She knows the person who murdered someone that she looked up to.
Idolized.
Worshipped. And she goes for the fucking kill.
Unreal.
Which was so sad and made so much sense.
Yeah. And it's such a weird little thing that I noticed. I don't know why. I kind of just got transfixed on this moment. Like, both her mother, because you can tell both, like, Sasha's parents are, like, very loving. Obviously, like, they take in orphans.
Yeah.
You know, and they raise them. And Kaya being, like, I think they consider Kaya, like, you know, that is their daughter. It's not, like, you know, just someone we take care of. Like, that is their family. Mm-hmm. And both her parents, both Mr. and Mrs. Browse, like, they have her tackled. And I think the mom makes a line of, like, how dare you try to kill someone?
Yeah.
And like is screaming, and then it looks too, and you can see like both the two of them are in tears trying to hold her down, and then Kaya's like fucking screaming.
Yeah.
Like
the whole family's just kind of mourning together, right?
Yeah, and it was that, you know, that was like, you know, I think probably when they heard about Sasha, you know, it was war, like, you know, I'm sure they cried and it was upsetting and all that, but like it was kind of,
but it wasn't,
you know,
this, yeah.
It wasn't, and then, but this was just like, this was ripping the wound open.
Totally.
You know, and it was, you can tell it was just emotional and everyone, like, Armin's like, we gotta get you the fuck out of here. Like, best Armin Reed of all time. He's like, this is no bueno. Like, we gotta get out of here.
I also,
and, yeah.
Sorry, just as a side note, I want to say I also really appreciate, you know, I don't want to linger on Sasha's death too long with like too many shots of her grave, but I feel like this does do a really good job of making a season 1 character's death matter.
Yeah.
And it's not cheap. You know what I mean?
Nope.
This
No.
absolutely helps Gabby's character development. It helps push the plot forward because of where we all are and the setting that it's taking place in. It's like, it's just like really, really good writing. It's, you know, it really makes Sasha's death matter and pays the appropriate amount of respect to that character while also just keeping the show going.
Absolutely. It's this, and this is why this is like, you know, this scene's, again, the whole episode's tremendous, but, and then, you know, like, all this is happening, and Niccolo just he kind of comes to, he's like, fuck, like, what is wrong with me? Like, I almost killed a child. Yeah. You know, you can tell he's not, oh my god.
Before hilarious. That, he goes, as the whole character is crying, or as the whole family's crying, he goes, now the food's gone cold.
Yeah.
It's like, just nothing is working.
No.
It's very somber. That was my close to emotional moment. Or it may have been during him and Gabby's screaming match. But that whole thing happens in the span of like 4 minutes. That was just like, that was some captivating shit, man.
It was intense. I could not. And after I've rewatched the episode 3 times now, and every time it's just like jaw dropped. It's so emotional and so, it's not that it's emotional. It's just, it's raw.
Yeah.
You know, like it's, again, like I've never seen a hostage situation in a movie or a show like that before. Like the way they're genuinely screaming at each other. Like these are people like, not, I guess in that moment Gabby and Niccolo just hate each other. You know, and just, I don't know, unreal. This episode, I love this episode.
I watched one. I try not to watch these before we have our podcast, but I watched one reaction video, and I can't remember who it was, but I watched somebody reacting to this scene of, you know, the whole family crying and all this stuff going on, and the person, I think it was from the Normies, one of them pauses it and he goes, "Is the point of this show sadness?"
Yeah.
I was like, it's fucking word, man.
It's starting to feel like it.
They fucking got me here.
Yeah.
But you know, following this, after all this beautiful character stuff, we just go plot.
Yeah.
And Niccolo reveals the shit about the wine. Did you see it coming? Like,
From
my theory notwithstanding.
No, the moment like Niccolo kind of stopped the bottle. I was like, wow, that's odd. If you hadn't said anything, I feel like I would have guessed that.
Yeah.
It's so funny in retrospect. Like,
of course, it's obvious now, right?
It's obvious now, but like, I feel like if you hadn't said anything, I feel like both our brains would have exploded during this episode. Do you know what I mean? And like, that's the one bad thing about speculation. But a show like this, it's hard not to like try and figure out what's going on. Like, fuck, like what? And we said this last week. Like, there's so many directions. There's so many balls being juggled right now. Mm-hmm. It's hard not to try and figure where, like, how everything's going to plan out. But I genuinely believe Niccolo is honest, or I believe he's being honest about, like, he has to speculate. He's not a dummy. Like, he's a soldier, and clearly not a dumb one. Like, he was in on, he's been working with the scouts. But do you think, like, and Anya Capone, do you believe him too? Do you think he had no idea what was going on?
I do.
Yeah.
The only reason I do is because, it seems clear that Aaron was in on the plot and intentionally cut out the scouts, and I feel like it's possible that the same thing is happening on the other side. Like, Zeke and Yelena are aware and intentionally cut out the anti-Marleyan volunteers on their end, just to ensure that the flowing of information doesn't fuck up their plan. Keep as many people, keep as small circle as you can. Of course, that begs the question, like, why the fuck does Flock know? Like, how many of the Jaegerists are totally aware? That was a bummer.
My God.
That was a punch in the gut.
Yeah.
But we'll get there in a sec. Because it looks like Falco got some of that wine.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Because Niccolo makes a point of, like, you need to wash his mouth out. And that just shows, like, how genuine and good a character he is. Like, how he cares. He doesn't want that to happen to anyone. He's like, but it's probably too late.
Yeah, how awful will it be if that's the way Falco goes?
Show's about sadness, man.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's
long game theory. This one I feel like I have much less good chances, but I don't know what you call this. It's when they throw the football really far. What's that called?
Thrown into the end zone?
No, it's like it's taking a Hail Mary.
Hail Mary, there you go.
Bit of a Hail Mary here. Maybe, the plan goes and all the, a bunch of Titans pop off because of this plan, and they've ingested the wine. Maybe, Falco pops and is saved because he gets to eat a Titan. And the only reason I'm suggesting that, because I know it's far-fetched, is because of, back in the pilot, or the episode 1, where he was it seemed like he was remembering being a scout. And I'm just thinking maybe he eats somebody who was a scout. Maybe he eats Reiner. That is, that's my Hail Mary. I have no idea.
Do you think Reiner?
Because he was kind of supposed to, though, right? Like,
yeah,
like he was in the running for the armor, and like, not that we're justifying the whole candidate passing down thing, but like, Jesus, I'd really rather him have it than fucking Gabby at this point.
Yeah.
Well, anyway.
Yeah.
Who knows? Random theory. Hopefully he doesn't pop off at all.
Ideally, no. But this, just watching, like, that was the other thing too. Like, the little moments in this episode of, like, you can see Hanj and Armin are trying to, like, they're pumping water down his throat. Yeah. And they get it in, they get it out, and Hanj is like, again. And I think they do that like 3 or 4 times.
They have him in a bath at one point.
Yeah, it's like, no, again. And it's like, do it again, and do it again. And it's like, they really are... They're trying to save the kid. Yeah. And like, he's clearly... They know who he is. They know he's a warrior candidate. They know how important he is to the side. And they're just trying to save a life. Mm-hmm. Like...
Being good people.
Fuck, man. Love these guys.
Then we go back to Levi. Really cool scene here. He gets the news about the prison break. And he... is clearly pissed off, and he has this cool scene with that animation on the trees. What do you think about that?
That was super cool. Like, didn't expect it, and the first thing I thought of is they're gonna close his story out soon.
Yeah,
that's what I thought. The way they showed the memories and all that, and but his lines were so potent and like he hates Aaron in this moment. Like he's like, how many, and Hanj had said the same thing like a couple episodes ago of how many times have we had to save you, or this is like when they picked him up in the blimp following the Marley
Every
attack.
time you get captured, we have to save you and people die.
Yeah, and Levi repeats the same thing. He's like,
Levi
I've lost so many comrades.
Oh,
like
God. They had the OG Levi squad from season 1 in there.
Yeah,
Do you remember that shit, man?
in the forest.
His whole fucking squad got killed by Annie.
Yeah, and Henny was not delicate with them either. That was probably one of the most, thinking back, some of the most memorably vicious moments in this series was Annie just going loose in that forest.
Dude, yeah, it really was, because they took time to intro you to Levi's squad and like Aaron's time bonding with them. And then for a sec, it looks like they're doing well against the female Titan, and then she just fucking bodies each one of them.
Yeah.
And they even give you like a special moment of like Levi like flying over all their corpses and realizing what has happened. Jesus. But yeah, I think you're right. And it really bums me out, because I'm sure, as you know, and everybody knows, I think Levi even like kind of alludes to it at the beginning of the episode, because I'm pretty popular. Like, he's clearly a fan favorite.
Yeah.
He's the one you don't want to see go, which may be why we see him go here in the next couple.
It was just such a dramatic moment. It was theatrical, like this. It was like screens, and it kind of it didn't make me think of Willie. Remember Willie, Dave? How far? Like, Willie was so far long ago at this point. It's unreal.
He was a good character in retrospect.
He was a good character.
Barely there, but he crushed it.
But like, and then that's such a highlight of this season is like we got Nicolo, we got Gabby, we got Falco, we got Yelena to an extent. We're getting all these new characters, and I feel like they've been with us the whole ride.
Yeah, I know.
Like I feel like I know Nicolo better than half of the scouts.
And yeah, especially because of when you give a character a moment like that,
Yeah,
I
guess
really
that's
far.
true. Yeah.
But I really liked, I liked Levi's monologue. I loved the animation. I love like the ending line. He says, was all that suffering for a farce like this, or was all that effort for a farce like this? He's clearly pissed off. But I will say, I appreciate a motivated Levi. Mm-hmm. We've seen what he's capable of in the past, so I feel like it's inevitable that he's going to get caught up in this conflict with the wine. And he, I hope he survives it.
Well, and there was a really interesting line that kind of caps off this scene is, the Levi kind of puts two and two together that Pixis, is planning to have, someone they know and trust to eat Aaron. Mm-hmm. And he just makes the line of, I know someone else. I know another shit who should have been eaten right away. And then the scene cuts to black, and there's kind of a sound effect. I think he immediately is making a move on Zeke. I think he goes for the kill, and I think that we're going to see that next week. That's my little prediction. But
I appreciate that. I think it's irritating that they were. I mean, it's not irritating. It's frustrating because I know why it's happening. But it's irritating that he gets the news about the prison break and all this shit. But I wish he fucking knew about the wine, because if he did, he would probably understand how vulnerable he is. Because the chances are, I'm guessing, everybody around him.
Yeah,
has been made vulnerable. I was thinking about this randomly, and I think if we assume the wine plot succeeds because he wants to get out of there, or Aaron comes to rescue and they have to do it or something. Mm-hmm. I'm guessing you and I both said either Levi has never drunk the wine because he's all business.
I guarantee he hasn't.
I was gonna say, or I do not see him going the way of being made a Titan. That would just be way too mean. But dude, imagine. Or like maybe, some Ackerman bullshit will prevent it from working on him or something. But it seems more likely that it's that's the former, and that I bet he just hasn't had a sip.
That's interesting too. They hit a couple times this season about the power of the Ackermans, but they've been focusing on Mikasa so much. Mm-hmm. But he's an Ackerman too.
Yeah.
So I wonder if that's gonna pop up.
Yeah, there is time, assuming there's a season 2, or part 2. But anyway, good scene. I really appreciated that.
Really good scene. Like I said, Levi was every scene he had this episode was like out of the park. Good, very good.
I just don't want him to leave. It feels like he's got no one left. Like, but with Erwin leaving and Hanji seems so fucking overwhelmed these days. It just feels like they're kind of all we've got left in terms of leadership.
Yeah.
And they're both a bit overwhelmed and spread thin. And it's shitty to see the scouts so vulnerable and on the back
We've
foot.
never really seen that. We've only the only time we've seen this was when they were on the run. But even then, they had like a significant leg up on a bunch of stuff. They had the Titan, they had Aaron.
The coup was in progress. It felt like we were, we at least had a plan.
Yeah, this is everyone's scattered. No one can communicate. It's dire. The next episode's going to be. Anyways, we'll get to that.
Okay, so Niccolo explains. We go back, and Niccolo explains to the scouts that they've used this tactic before. Mm-hmm. That they conquered a capital city in one night with the use of this spinal fluid. So this is not experimental.
No, and that's what I had alluded to earlier, because we had wondered if the only reason Zeke could control them was because it was his own spinal fluid. Mm-hmm. And they make reference, and Nicola makes reference to this city was using his spinal fluid to do this. So I don't know. It's in my heart of hearts, I'm really hoping that Zeke is going to make his move, thinking that Aaron is with him, and Aaron's going to see and be like, "Nah, this ain't this is no good." And then uses his founding power to maybe stop, or the founding titan to stop it. Who knows?
I'm not fucking holding out for Aaron for anything.
No, I'm really not. I'm really not.
Around this time, like you had mentioned, Armin had taken Gabby away. Yeah. With Mikasa. And it's around, everything kind of happens at once here in a series of cool cuts. But, he brings her to the table. And, again, Gabby's kind of on that one-track mind of, like, don't you want to kill me? Why would you, don't kill Falco. It was me who killed this girl. It was me who bludgeoned the guard to death. And Armin has, a stinger of a line. Like, one of my favorites of the whole episode. You know what I'm going to say?
Yeah.
Yeah, kill this, kill that. It's all you think about. Like somebody else I know. And then, like, if that wasn't on the nose enough, because that was a great line, Aaron walks up behind them.
I couldn't believe it.
This show has this weird way of doing super dramatic things really, like, mundanely. Yeah. Like him casually being like, oh, hey, guys.
And with the cut hand, too.
Yeah, I know. He's loaded.
As if he had that loaded gun on his two best friends.
Yeah, and for a sec there, I thought he was going to transform because it cuts away, and we see Flock show up in the other room.
This Flock guy, he's bad news, man.
A little shit. Yeah, I know. They gave him like a full villain frame.
yeah. They even got the evil anime face on him at one point.
That's what I'm saying.
I was like, for real?
Son's a bit. Yeah, that felt like very uncharacteristic of the show.
But I think it just shows that Flock is like a bloodthirsty fucker.
Yeah, bloodthirsty, radicalized, one-track mind.
He has the most heavy deliverance of lines I've seen in a long time in this show.
Yeah, man.
When Hanj is going back and forth with him.
Oh yeah, the disrespect.
He just says like, "Hey, don't give me a reason to prove to you that I'm not playing."
Yeah, he cocks the gun and says, "I'm not one of your lackeys that's going to answer to you." Yeah. And God damn, homie.
Was like, I will kill someone. Like, it's so crazy. It was not too much, but like, we had just had all this stuff with Niccolo and Gabby and the Grouse family, or the Browse family, and then you go to like this hostage situation. It's like, oh my God, like, can we get a fucking break with the hostages? Yeah.
Yeah.
But then he lets it slip that they've been in on. Because they make a reference to, Hanj makes like a last ditch attempt saying like, no, like Zeke tricked us, like, the wine has spinal fluid, and then
and then what happened, Grant?
They can be a little dumber, and it just kind of proved that they're in on it.
It did prove that the military, or at least that the Jaegerists, the Jaegerbams, were totally aware of the plot the whole way through. That fucking sucked. Yeah. And then, his whole, like you said, his evil anime face.
so out of character.
Yeah,
Or not
just,
out of character. It was so out of show.
yeah, that's what I'm
You
saying.
know?
Like it
Yeah.
just felt weird.
Yeah.
Um,
Fitting though. Fuck that kid.
yeah, and that in the moment, it felt like we have how the turntables. You know,
Yeah.
it's like we're really kind of fucked here.
Mm.
And I don't, I just I just wonder what the plan is and if they're ready for casualties or not, because the episode closes in the next scene, right?
Mm-hmm.
With Aaron saying, he cuts to his bleeding hand on the table, like you just said, that loaded gun, this time pointed at his best friends.
Yeah.
I wanted to talk to you guys.
I'm really curious.
Yeah.
I'm really curious what he has to say.
It, it makes me wonder if this is the end, because it, with Levi having that moment of being like, he felt like he was kind of giving up on Aaron, and this like kind of somber look in Aaron's eyes when he confronts Mikasa and everybody. It feels like, do you think he's getting ready to separate himself from them and just do it himself, or do you think he's going to try and convince them to come on board?
I think he's probably giving them a chance to like get away from all this. Maybe tell them to run.
Yeah,
That's what I would. That's my. I think he still loves and cares for them like deeply, and doesn't want them involved. But I think that he thinks that like the path is like too far gone at this point.
right.
So it's really hard to say, because just the fact that he entered that situation, like, did he really think that Mikasa and Armin would like just taken him down immediately?
I don't know, but he has insurance.
But that's the thing.
That
He has
says something,
insurance. So I don't know. This isn't my Aaron. Like this isn't anyone's Aaron at this point. It's crazy. Like
Hashtag not my Aaron.
yeah, but I do want to kind of go back a little bit. I think the really important thing about 2 episodes ago with Kaya and Gabby, we had talked about how there was an olive branch was given to Gabby, like as a chance to come back, or to come away from like her, just like her one-track mind, like the, I think you and I have said zealotry like 100 times over 13 episodes, but like it's evident, and like they've been hitting that home. But they gave her this olive branch, and then this episode she continued on that path, and it only, like, her zealotry only potentially killed the person she loves and cares about. Like, she grew up with this kid, like, she, whether she knows it or not, or she's a child, like she loves Falco.
Falco's the closest thing she's got to a friend. Yeah,
absolutely. Like, like the bonds they would have for like the, just like being an LD and Marley, and just probably going through that program, like, it's, and it's also, she's all she has left, like Udo and Zofia, like they're gone, and that was brutal how that happened. And she probably doesn't know the state of her family back home either, but she still carried on and like was bragging to Nicola about killing the soldiers, and we're gonna kill so many more on the way out of here, and yada yada. But this moment when she asks Armin, she's like, "You guys must hate me," and Armin's like, "I don't hate you." And then she's like, "Well, don't you guys want to kill me?" And he's like, "I don't want to kill anybody." This was the second time they've done this for her. I'm wondering if they're going to make her at the last minute. I think she's going to get her wish. I think she might kill Aaron.
Oh God, that's a terrifying prediction.
Can you imagine?
Yeah.
But it's been her trajectory. This is what she has wanted. She wants to be the savior of Eldia, as also like kind of Aaron does in a weird way. Mm-hmm. And I'm not saying this is definitively, but like I do. It might not go as that far to save her character, but I think she might be more leaning to
maybe he makes some kind of vow and she gets possessed by that.
Yeah, who knows? Like, I don't know. But I think they're making an attempt at trying to save Gabby's soul a little bit.
I agree. I think it's also no accident that she's sitting at that table
with those two.
When he decides to have maybe a pivotal and perhaps last conversation with them before things radically change. We saw how important it was for Falco's character to witness the conversation between Reiner and Aaron.
Yeah.
It might make a lot of sense. Aaron, this is the weird thing is like in that conversation way back then, he seems to demonstrate that he's not radicalized, that he does understand both sides, that he understands, you know, he has this great line, you know, over the wall, across the sea, people are the same. They're generally good people.
Yeah.
But he proceeds anyway. You know what I mean? So Aaron seems to have a, you know, definitely a more mature understanding than Gabby, but he's going to proceed anyway. And then you have Armin and Mikasa, both of whom, mostly Armin, who has like suggested that he's interested in a diplomatic solution. He's told Gabby very recently, I'm not going to kill you. Like, I'm not fucking crazy. You know what I mean? It's not that simple. So I don't know. I think hopefully we get a lot of conversation between the three of them. I also think, you know, another semi-Hail Mary is maybe this is the moment where Mikasa has to choose. You know, between what's right or what she feels is right and unwavering loyalty to Aaron.
Because we're now down to 3 episodes, right? Three episodes left.
Yeah.
How this is played out, this episode, gives me a feeling like they could potentially wrap this up in 3 episodes. Kind of leave it at like a standstill point of like, this is how the anime is ending the story versus how like the manga. I'm not saying definitively, but
there would be fucking protests.
There would be, but I do kind of get a sense that things are kind of coming to a little bit of closure.
I agree with you though. Like, it feels like it's narrowing, and it's kind
more
of
so than even last week. Last week it seemed like significantly bigger scope, and after this episode, it's like very much kind of like.
It depends. You know, I think it depends how they want to do it. You know, because
yeah,
they could provide the anime with a big, not a reset, but there, you know, it depends on how much content and how big the show wants to go. Right? It could, you know, they could really shake up things by having an effective surprise attack by Marley. You know what I mean? And maybe that throws everything into chaos. Because right now, you know, up until recently, at least in season 4, it's really been Marley against Paradis. And because the Jaegerists on the inside fucking everything up, it has turned it's turned this whole thing on its head and has made everything much more complicated. But maybe you can elongate that conflict I don't fucking know. I still think there's a part 2 until proven wrong. But
no, I agree. I don't think this story. It's gonna sound like so fanboy, but like this story is too beautiful to not give the fans and like also the story its respect to not like properly, you know, run its due course. Because if they ended in 3 episodes, that would not be doing it. I'm sure it'll be awesome and will be up and down, and I'm sure they would find a way to like kind of appease us some way. But like I don't know. I don't think so. Like I think it would be silly to do that. Like and this thing's a money printing machine.
I was gonna say it's too popular. It usurped. It took the number 1 and like several of the top 5 spots for best TV show episodes of all time, away from Breaking Bad. Like it's too big. I have to assume that even if Mappa couldn't handle a part 2, that someone else would. That, you know, they wouldn't just let it die. Who knows? I don't know. That's about it. Do you have any major predictions for next episode? I mean, we've given a few. I assume you watched The Stinger?
Yeah, and did you catch the episode name?
Savagery.
Yeah, it's not going to be a good one, man. I'm telling you. I don't think Levi goes out this episode, but I think him versus the monk round 2 is
Monkey.
on. Monkey. I think that goes down. I genuinely believe that like that cut to black was him like
100%.
like making a beeline. You know, probably a beautiful shot of him almost being Adam and Zeke. You know.
Yeah.
Trigger transforming. I do believe in the conversation. I think Aaron's going to try and justify himself. I don't think he's going to apologize. I think he's just going to. I don't think Aaron is going to try and bring them onto his side. I think he's going to tell them to run. Like, just get out of here.
Yeah.
Like, I think because they kind of opened the door with Hazuru a little bit for.
Yeah.
That because that. Oh, okay.
Exit strategy.
Oh, here we go. Let's do it. Okay. If there is a part 2, if we get an announcement about a part 2 leading up, I bet you some core cast gets on a boat, makes a run for Hazuru, and regroups away from it all, and like maybe the Azumabitos hide them, because I've said this before. They introduced her Scar. There's no way in 3 episodes they can wrap up all these things they've left on the table. Mm-hmm. There's no way. I genuinely believe that. I would be shocked because they'd waste so much time in each episode. I think there's got to be. That might be again, this is to the end of the season, not necessarily for next week, but I think they might be lying. But I think Aaron is just telling them, like, get the fuck out of here. Like, this isn't for you guys anymore. Yeah. Like, this is now a holy war. Mm-hmm. And you guys didn't sign up for this. Like, this is not what it was 4 years ago.
Yeah, I pretty much agree. I mean, I think their relationship is gonna change radically. Yeah. I don't know in what form exactly, but outside of that, I agree with you. I think the wine plot will probably succeed or happen to an extent. And there'll be conflict, and I would not be shocked if somebody, season 1 type character dies in the middle. If it turns out to be an action-heavy episode, I wouldn't be surprised if just somebody catches a bullet or gets eaten, or just to remind us of the stakes. Not that we really need it, but I wouldn't be surprised if there is a casualty. But yeah, I feel like I also agree. We'll probably get Zeke round 2, or some form of that, him springing a trap. Or Levi attempting, to circumvent said trap. I just predict action there.
Because that's too. Because there could be Jaegerists with Levi.
Yeah, they hinted at that, right? That they're, that they were spread throughout the military. So, yeah. I guess we'll have to see.
We will have to see, Dave.
Fucking crazy. All right, people. Thank you for listening. We do this time every week. We try and stick to the same schedule. So. We will see you again. Hope you enjoyed the podcast. As always, do the social media thing or support this podcast wherever you're listening to it. Like, comment, subscribe, follow it, whatever you like. We appreciate all of it. It's great to continue to see the podcast to grow, and as a result, we're going to keep doing it. So, yeah. We've been talking about what to cover next, assuming there's a break between part 1 and 2, assuming there's a part 2. So if you've got suggestions, maybe we'll put out a survey or something coming soon. But until then, we'll see you again for next week's episode of Attack on Titan.
Thanks, guys.
Cheers.